My twin walked in, her face bruised and eyes empty. I told her, "Let me handle this." The next day, she smiled again, and he couldn't. My twin sister, Hannah, walked into my apartment late one evening. Her face was bruised, her eyes hollow, and her hands shaking as if she'd been holding her breath for hours. She didn't need to say a single word. I could see everything in those silent tears. I knew what he'd done again. Her husband, Ethan, always looked perfect from the outside. Charming smile, clean suit, polite voice. But I'd seen the truth behind that mask. The monster that waited for her at home when the world wasn't watching. I sat beside her, watching her shoulders tremble, the purple marks on her arm barely hidden by her sleeves. "Hannah," I whispered, "did he do this again?" She nodded, lips pressed together, trying not to cry. Something inside me burned, a mix of anger and helplessness that I couldn't hold back anymore. I took her hand and said quietly, "Let me handle this." Her eyes widened in fear. "No, Ava, please, he'll hurt you too." But I smiled, not kindly. "No, Hannah, he won't." The next morning, Hannah stayed in my apartment while I dressed in her clothes. Her perfume, her ring, her hairstyle, every detail matched. When I looked in the mirror, it was like seeing her reflection, but with fire in her eyes instead of fear. I drove straight to her house, heart pounding, but steady. When I opened the door, Ethan was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone, not even glancing up. "Where were you last night?" he asked, his tone cold and controlling. I didn't answer. I just stared at him. When he finally looked up, his brow furrowed. Something about me was off. My posture, my eyes, my silence. "What's with the attitude?" he barked. I tilted my head and said quietly, "Just thinking, how small you look right now." His confusion turned to anger. He stood, his voice sharp. "Watch your tone." But I didn't flinch. Instead, I pulled my phone out and started recording. "You think you can scare me?" I said, my voice low and steady. "Go ahead, try." He did. He yelled, slammed his fist on the wall, just like he had done so many times before. But this time, I was ready. Every threat, every violent word was caught on camera. When he grabbed my wrist, I didn't pull away. I looked straight into his eyes and smiled. "You just lost everything." He froze when he noticed the red light blinking on my phone. "You can't prove anything," he hissed. I smiled wider. "Oh, but I already did. It's live streaming." His face drained of color. Panic replaced arrogance. For the first time, he was the one afraid. Before he could react, the doorbell rang. The police. I'd set up a scheduled call with a location share. All triggered when I started recording. Ethan stumbled back, shouting nonsense, trying to twist the story. But the video spoke louder than his lies. Within minutes, he was in handcuffs. That night, I went home to find Hannah waiting by the window. Her eyes still red from crying, but softer now, lighter. She turned toward me and managed a small smile. "You did it," she whispered. I shook my head gently. "We did it." She hugged me tight, her tears soaking my shoulder. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. I brushed her hair back and smiled. "Just promise me one thing. Never let anyone silence you again." Days passed, and for the first time in years, Hannah started to heal. She laughed again, baked cookies like she used to, and even started painting. One evening, as the sunset filled the room with gold light, my phone rang. It was the police. They said Ethan had confessed everything. Apparently, the guilt and fear crushed him. I stood by the window, looking out at the quiet city, the world peaceful again. Hannah was safe. The nightmare was over. I walked to her room and found her asleep, her face calm. No bruises, no fear, just peace. I smiled to myself, whispering under my breath, "You smiled again," and he couldn't.